Senator Milne.
Thank you, Mr Deputy President. I rise today to take note of an answer by Senator Carr with regard to my question about the wool scour, the CSIRO wool scour at Belmont at Geelong, or Belmont in Victoria. Now, the issue here is that we have a very substantial industry around Australia in natural fibres, rare and natural fibres. There are more than 8,000 people who are involved in value-adding from their rural enterprise through the developing, breeding, achieving rare and natural fibres, but because of the small volumes involved, they need a scourer to be able to clean the wool, process the wool, the fibre, and get it back to them so that they can value-add the product. The cuts to the CSIRO have meant that scour, the CSIRO scour, is to be sold, and so that was devastating news. First of all, it's devastating in terms of CSIRO research in terms of wool, and secondly, it's devastating to these 8,000 or more producers around the country who are dependent on it to value add. Now, the minister undertook, after a huge amount of pressure from the industry around the country, undertook to look, when they were putting to tender the scour, to make sure that it would be operational for 5 years and it would continue to support these people in their endeavours. In the meantime, some of them have been told, go and get your wools processed in New Zealand, which would double the cost of the yarn. Others have been told, oh, well, in terms of the alpaca, pack it up and send it to Peru and get it back from there. Of course, doubling costs. This is unacceptable from the government. However, the industry understood that the minister had given them an undertaking that an audit would be done before it went to tender, so that when it did go out to tender, people looking at the business would consider exactly the nature of these 8,000 people around the country, or businesses around the country. That audit wasn't done, and I've spoken to Senator Carr since question time, and he says he never gave an undertaking to do the audit. He was asked to help find some money for the audit to be done, and there was no money forthcoming. The result is the industry has not had the audit for the benefit of those who might be interested in the tender, in applying in the tender process. Secondly, it was always understood that the dryer would be part of the tender process. Now we find that the tender documents didn't include the dryer. That means whoever tenders for it is going to be up for another at least $500,000 to buy a dryer, because there's no point in having the scour without the dryer. So I don't know why the government put to tender a facility without the dryer. But that has to be clarified, and it seems to me that since the government has not had a successful tenderer because no one could meet the terms of the tender document and they're in negotiations with people, that they should now re-advertise, because I've been told of at least one person at one business that was interested in the scour that didn't apply because it didn't include the dryer, and they knew that it would cost them another $500,000 to be able to put a dryer in there to make the business operational and viable. So I think the government needs to go back and to put it out to tender with the dryer associated, because that just makes a mockery of the whole thing. And I do make the point here as well that we have dropped the ball entirely in this country in terms of wool research. We used to ride on the wool's back. It seems now we're content to be stuck in the coal pit, and we've let the wool industry go. And I think the wool industry needs to really think about what it's doing. New Zealand, just over the last couple of days, has announced the development of new fibre as a result of their agricultural and research program there. They've now got a stab-resistant and flame-resistant fabric based on wool. They're out there with their non-woven windproof fleeces, as well as their natural easy care 100% wool shirting and suiting fabrics. Here are our neighbours across the Tasman committing to long-term research, and it's not happening here. So Minister and the government, we want the dryer with the scour put out to tender again, and some real consultation about this to keep the industry viable around the country.